So problem 24-4 is just kind of a quick little problem. And so we're just looking at a company that is either, hey, do we keep our current machine and do we overhaul it and fix it up, or do we go buy a new machine? So a pretty common problem. And so it gives us information for, hey, if we keep this old machine, hey, what our costs are, our expected revenues, expected expenses, and then if we go ahead and buy a new machine, what the new machine cost, what the cash flows are going to be related to it. And so we just want to compare these two scenarios and figure out which one that we do. And so in our first alternative, that's that we keep the old machine. And so we just want to figure out, hey, what are our net cash flows if we keep this machine? And so that's just going to be so before I jump in, I just wanted to kind of clarify something on net present value. And we talked about net present value when we did problem 24-1. And so what that formula does, so if we were to list out our cash flows right here, and then we're going to plug in our net present value formula, is that takes this first cash flow and it assumes that we receive that 365 days later. So if there's any cash that we're going to get or going to spend that's going to happen immediately on day number 1, we want to keep that outside of our formula, outside of our calculation. And I'll kind of show you how that works here. So we're going to plug in our net cash flows from operations here. So it says that we're going to have our revenues 95,000, expenses 42. So we're just going to do 95,000 minus 42,000 to give us 53. And that's going to happen each of these years. But what we're going to have to do here is we're also going to have to spend 112,000 to fix this old machine. And so we're going to, overhaul, sorry. That's 150,000. So we're going to put that down here outside of our calculation. We also have, let's see, we have a salvage value at the end of the period. So we're going to add that $15,000 here in year 5. So if we do our net present value formula, we're going to have a rate of 10%. And then we're going to just grab our cash flows here. So we have a net present value of cash flows of 210, plus we're going to spend 150 right off the top in order to fix that machine. So we have a net present value of $60,000. So that's saying that, hey, if we go ahead and we keep this old machine, that works. We're still positive net present value. There's nothing wrong with that. But we might have a better option if we go ahead and get a new machine. So for that, it says that expected annual generated revenues are 100,000 with operating cash flows or operating expenses, of 32,000. Whoops, one too many zeros. And so we'll just copy that down. And then in this last year, we're going to have a salvage value of the machine that we bought. So add that in there. So plug in our net present value formula. Just going to enter our interest rate here. So net present value of 270,000. But we have to subtract out. This is not going to be overhaul costs. This is going to be cost of new machine. There we go. And so the cost of the new machine is going to be right off the top. it's going to happen on day one, so we want to keep that outside of our net present value formula. And then we also, if we buy a new machine, that means we're going to sell the old machine. And it tells us that the value of that old machine, not at the end of 5 years, but today, is going to be $29,000. So that's also going to be on day one, so we want to keep that outside of our formula as well. And so that's going to give us a negative net present value of $808. And so, according to these assumptions, it looks like, hey, we're going to be better off just keeping the old machine and fixing it up. It looks so, that $300,000 that we have to spend for a new machine, looks like the revenues that it generates just isn't going to quite be enough to make this deal worthwhile. So in this deal, we want to keep our old machine.